of AD, rival Roman armies massed outside the city, waiting to do battle. At the head of one was a young commander called Constantine. He knew the next day a river of Roman blood would flow. He also knew that if he lost, it was all over. His claim to the empire, certainly, and probably his life. Constantine looked up into the sky. He saw a cross of light that seemed to burn itself into the heavens, and above it the words, "In hoc signo vinces," by this sign you will conquer. He had crosses painted on the shields of his troops. The next day, at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, he smashed the armies of his rival, Maxentius. No sooner was Constantine installed as emperor than he repealed many of Diocletian's reforms, including his ban on Christianity. But he went even further, declaring himself a Christian. Romans were stunned. Most thought Christianity was just another weird Eastern sect. Suddenly, their new emperor had declared himself a cult member. They thought they had another lunatic on their hands. They didn't. Constantine cleverly saw how Christianity could unify an empire coming apart at the seams. Unlike Rome's pagan religion, it preached discipline, obedience, and only one God.
Constantine is one of the most dynamic figures in Roman history. He presented himself as a new Moses, leading his people to a promised land. But I think he saw himself being guided by the hand of a god. And after all, it's one God who's in charge, just as there's one emperor who's going to be in charge. We're getting rid of this old system of multiple emperors under Diocletian and going back to the system where one man is calling the shots. Christianity resonates with Constantine's view of himself.
Under Constantine, Roman unity was reborn, but there wasn't much that was Roman about it. Constantine grew up in the Balkans in Eastern Europe and the imperial city of Trier, Germany. He had no liking for Rome and recognized it had become strategically irrelevant. All the important conflicts in the empire were now along the frontiers to the east and north. So he moved the empire's capital to the ancient city of Byzantium and renamed it after himself, Constantinople.
The foundation of Constantinople is, I think, one of the most important moments in the history of the Roman Empire. It's the foundation of New Rome, to use Constantine's name for the city. It marks a political, a cultural, and an economic shift from Italy to the Balkans. The Roman Empire now will be centered not in the west, but in the east.
Constantine abandoned the traditional trappings of a Roman emperor and ruled like an oriental sultan from his palace in modern Turkey. His power was absolute. His piety, and some say his vanity, knew no bounds.
Pagans were a little more doubtful about Constantine's piety. One pagan story said that Constantine converted to Christianity because, having murdered his son and had his wife suffocated in a hot steam bath, he was desperately in search of a religion that would give him forgiveness. And Christianity was the only religion that would do that, Constantine having been flatly refused forgiveness by a number of pagan priests.
Before he died, he had 13 coffins placed in his sepulchre. 12 for the 12 apostles, 1 for himself. As if Constantine was the 13th apostle of Christ, the one who finally brought his kingdom to earth.